We hired our producer, Jack. He'd put in 300 applications and not one person called him back. And I do think, Chachi, I think it's because people are afraid to lose their gigs, right? They're afraid. If you're doing a great job, the team you surround yourself with should be stronger than you. Actually, that just makes you look better, right? The people that I put around me should be better than me, or at least bring something to the table. And bringing that youth in offers a different perspective. Jack has a different background than we do. He has a different outlook in life. He's an entirely different letter. I mean, he's a different generation, so you need that. And if we do not bring young people in, this industry will die, and it's because of us. So if you're young and you want to get in radio, keep knocking on the doors, invest in yourself like we did. If you really believe you've got the chops, you've got the work ethic, do it. Because nobody's going to believe in you more than you can.
Benztown President Dave Chachi Dennis loves radio and all of his radio friends.
Hey, Chachi!
Hey, everybody.
Because Chachi loves everybody.
My guest today is a true trailblazer in broadcasting, someone who built her career the old-fashioned way, with grit, talent, resilience, and an authentic voice that listeners instantly connect with. She was raised in Big Springs, Texas, where life wasn't always easy. Those early experiences of responsibility, perseverance, and finding strength through adversity would later become the foundation of the honesty and relatability that define her on-air style today. Unlike many who enter radio through big market internships or traditional pipelines, she carved her own road through smaller Texas markets, learning the business one stop at a time and sharpening a style rooted in humor, heart, family, and real-life storytelling. That journey led to a historic breakthrough when she became the first Latina to lead a nationally syndicated multicast radio show in the United States, a landmark achievement that opened doors and inspired countless others across the industry. Today, her show reaches audiences across major markets nationwide, blending pop culture, relationships, parenting, marriage, laughter, and real talk with chemistry that keeps listeners coming back day after day. Along with her husband and co-host, DJ Automatic, plus fan favorite Anthony A., she has built one of radio's most distinctive and beloved ensembles. She has interviewed some of the biggest stars in music and entertainment, earned industry recognition, including a Gracie Award, expanded into podcasting, and continues to prove that authenticity wins. Most importantly, she represents what happens when talent meets determination and when someone never forgets where they come from. Please welcome the host of the Dana Cortez Show, Dana Cortez.
I'm going to need you to walk into every room with me and just say that moving forward for the rest of my life. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I really appreciate it.
I've got to give credit to our good mutual friend, Andrew from Skyview, who helped put all our prep together. And I know you guys go back a long way. And
yes.
Truly, it's been just incredible to watch your success and the show take off like a rocket ship. But B, just to spend this time together with you, I greatly appreciate it. You are, as I mentioned in the bio, really inspired a lot of people and a lot of young people in particular to get into the industry, which we badly need. Tell me a little bit about growing up in Big Springs, Texas.
Well, it was different. I didn't know that I was, in the middle of humble beginnings because everybody in my neighborhood was living my life. I don't think it was until I really started school that I understood how humble my life really was. But it didn't matter. I had love. I had food. I had people around me who were incredibly strong and incredibly, I think, smart. That was the most important thing, right? The people around me encouraged me, especially my Uncle Frankie, who helped raise me along with my Nana and my mom, really encouraged me to pursue whatever it was I wanted. Some people in the neighborhood I grew up in weren't raised with that mindset. It was always, this is what it is. This is how it's going to be. It was a tough neighborhood. I go back still to visit my mom. She still lives in Big Springs. She did leave, but she went back to retire there. And a lot of the people I grew up with are still, in their neighborhoods and they love their life. But I just wanted something a little different. I mean, when you go back, let me just quickly try to paint a picture for you. My uncle has now passed and my grandmother has now passed. And so I was going to clean their grave sites, and Automatic was with me, my husband and my co-host, my executive producer. And he could not believe that it's hard to even say where they're buried is still segregated. It says Mexicans here, whites here, blacks here. And, this is 2026. Yeah. And I don't know necessarily that it's still segregated, but the signs are still up. So that just gives you an idea of the kind of town that I grew up in.
When you were growing up, did you face a lot of racism? Was that something that was...
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I'm very light-skinned. I want to explain that too, because you can't see me, but I'm Mexican-American, right? Some of my family members are extremely morenos, which is dark. Some of them are light, and unfortunately, in a little town like that, you are judged by the color of your skin and your background, your last name, that kind of thing. So it's different. And that still continues even to this day, especially in smaller towns. There's a certain mindset. It's still there. We lived on the north side and other people lived on the other side. That's just the way it was. My grandmother actually bought, we called it the big house on the other side of town before I was born because she wanted me to grow up there. My grandfather had passed away before I came into the world and had, really the foresight to have life insurance. And so she was able to do that. And so I did have a little bit more opportunity than my mother, than my grandmother. The house I think was 980 square feet, but for us it was the big house, So that's kind of the town Big Spring is. Of course, it has progressed to a certain extent. But at the same time, there's still those small town values and sometimes a little bit of backward thinking. And I'll tell you, there's good people. There's good people in these small towns. They've just been raised a certain way, and that's just the way it is.
When you went to school, was broadcasting something that you thought about, or was...
No. I didn't think about it at all. I had my daughter, Kirsten, when I was 15. And so all I thought about was making money to feed my child. So broadcasting fell into my lap. This really is an incredible story. I was so lucky that I was given out an opportunity to do a Sunday night fill-in at a radio station in Odessa, Texas. And I couldn't believe how fun it was. I couldn't believe that talking, which I'm really good at, was something I could do to get paid for. I had been doing every job you could think of, from bartending to, hostess, shining shoes, anything I could do to get money on the table. And so when this happened, I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I am going to turn this into a career. And I did. So I did not go to college. I did not graduate from college. That is not part of my journey. It was really learning hands-on, getting a wonderful opportunity from several incredible people in radio and, taking it and doing as much as I could with what I was offered.
What an amazing opportunity. How did that opportunity come about to work in? That was KMRK, correct?
Yeah, KMRK. And it's still there. KMRK is still there. And we're back in the building. So, and this sounds crazy. We're in Houston. We're in top 10 markets, all of this stuff. That was the most nerve-wracking. I was like, I want this station. I want to be back on in the building. Not exactly KMRK, but we are back in that cluster. If I'm going to be honest, Chachi, and I want to, like I said, I was a young mother. I was with somebody who was not a good person. He was actually seeing a woman in radio, sneaking behind my back. We caught him, and she kind of hooked me up with a program director. He wanted to be in radio. I ended up in radio, and the rest is history. So there you go.
That's remarkable.
It really is.
Perseverance and your strength, truly, truly astonishing. And so at KMRK, you start off with, do you get on, are you on the air right away, or are you
right away? There's no promo. That's what I'm telling you. This kind of thing, I was very lucky. And I also did well, right? When I first hit the mic, not the first time I said on the radio, I can't do this. But the second time, but live on the radio, I just put all my effort into it. I didn't read liners. I would just look at what I was supposed to talk about, and I just did that. And so it came to me, I wouldn't say easily at all, but I know how to speak. I know that that was one of my strengths in school all my life. I'd love to read. And so Sunday nights turned into filling in for full-timers. And then I'm not kidding you, within 6 months, I was offered a programming position by John Candelaria because the GM, they were going to flip a station to hip hop. And the GM said, you need to talk to Dana because she's out there talking to people. She's very young. She knows what's happening in the city or the town, right? Odessa, it's a city. Odessa, Texas is a city.
Sure.
And so John and I began to communicate. We talk a couple times a week. And he said, you're the person that I want to hire. And I thought, oh my God, what are you talking about? And then he said, I don't know anything about radio. He said, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you why we flip formats. I'm going to teach you how to do imaging. I'm going to teach you how to write. You're going to do the morning show. And I just was like, what is happening? Because no women did morning. All the women I looked up to did middays. And you have to understand, Chachi, I didn't know anything about broadcasting. So for me, I thought, why are you trying to put me in the mornings? He was making such a bold move. And in fact, I almost talked myself out of doing it. Like he had to really push me. And it changed the trajectory of my life. And I actually got offered a job in another market pretty quickly after. And it was a pretty big market. It was middays. And he said, you can go there and be the midday girl, or you can stay here and learn how we do radio and really get in the business of it. And I stayed. And I'm so glad that I did.
I love hearing this story, and what a tremendous mentor. I'm a big fan of John, and,
Yes.
programmed in Detroit and Phoenix. And so at this point, you guys are in Odessa together.
He's in El Paso. This is iHeart at the time.
Okay.
Dallas. And he leaves. He goes to Radio 1. So Univision picked me up in Odessa. JD Gonzalez was driving through town. He lives in Texas. He worked for Univision, which had hip hop stations at the time, right? They still do. We're still on one of their stations in San Antonio. And he heard me and he said, hey, I'm going to come back and pick you up. I'm going to hire you. And I thought, sure. I'm like, I just started radio. Like, sure, I'm a PD. I'm doing mornings. This guy's going to come for me. And he did. So I moved quickly from Odessa to Albuquerque, then from Albuquerque to Houston, which absolutely I was not ready for, but it was a great experience. Houston back to Albuquerque, Albuquerque to San Antonio led to a national syndicated opportunity. And
from essentially first breaking the mic and ending up in Houston the first time, how much time goes?
Well, probably 3 or 4 years. I mean, not even. I don't even know. I would have to really look at my account, but it was so fast. It was so fast that we got to Houston. We did not know what we were doing. I mean, you're talking about some of the most amazing talent on the planet. But even now, myself, Otto, and Anthony will listen to radio in Houston and be like, man, there's just a lot of talent. Some of these people were here when I was they're still on doing morning drive when I was here and still kicking butt. There's just so much talent. But the company believed in us. They believed we were talented, and we were. We just weren't ready. We weren't disciplined. We weren't, we didn't have the experience that's required to do a show that's necessary in a top 10 market. So it was very humbling. And luckily they kept me. They didn't fire me, which is...
Are you doing mornings at this point?
I'm doing mornings in Houston again.
Mornings in Houston.
Yes. Full circle, man.
I understand you are now, but back when the first time you went to Houston from Albuquerque, they put you in mornings. So a top 10 market in morning. What was that pressure like, just cracking the mic for the first time in Houston?
Not knowing anything, Chachi, I'm just going to tell you the truth. I didn't feel that way. I didn't know any better, man. I didn't plan on getting in radio. I was just so excited because I'm from Texas. I wanted to be in Texas. H-Town was my thing. I was like, oh my gosh, I love Houston. I didn't feel that pressure, which was probably hindsight the greatest thing ever because we were having a good time and we did make some noise. We did make noise. We just weren't disciplined enough to get ratings, to play the game, the PPM game, all of that. We just didn't understand that part of it because we were all so new. We were rookies. And it taught us such great lessons that I think now that's why our show is where it is. That's where I am, because it was a humbling experience. And JD sat me down when he moved me back to Albuquerque and said, look, you're amazing, but you've got to hone your skills and you've got to get disciplined. Go learn, go do what you need to do, and you'll be back here. And he was right. Now he works for Odyssey. He's the brand manager for Mega, which is the Spanish station, but we're right back in the Odyssey building now. So, I mean, the Univision now, it's Odyssey. It's so crazy how things work out.
When does DJ Automatic, your husband, and Anthony join the show?
Otto was already on the radio in Albuquerque. He was hired by my program director at the time, Pete Manriquez. And immediately Pete told me, man, this guy is amazing. Not only is he a good DJ, he's like, but we got to get him on the air. Like the way he talks, he kind of says what's on his mind. He has no filter whatsoever. And so we tried to get him to do the night show. At this point, you have to understand, I'm married at the time. He's with a girlfriend. Like, there's no romantic involvement at all. This is all a work situation.
And you are in not a good relationship at this point.
No, not a good relationship. This is the second marriage. This is way after my daughter was born. I'm in my, I think early 20s at the time. So Otto is amazing on the mic as well as a DJ. So Pete's trying to get him to do the night job. And he didn't want to take it. It didn't offer enough money. He was DJing all over the city. So he started coming in and doing the morning show mixes. Remember the mix show weekends and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's how he started. And he started talking on the mic. We became really close friends. I ended up getting a divorce, and then they moved us to Houston. And that's kind of how we started. But he was already on the show way before we were romantically involved. He was just so amazing, and Pete saw something in him. And I did too. I was just APD at the time. So, and then Anthony, actually, Otto met him and said, we got to get this guy in, which you just mentioned, youth. Anthony was young. He was hustling. He was sneaking his way backstage into these big shows, interviewing Mac Miller, interviewing Big Sean. He was working for The Source. He was working for MTV, blogging. Remember when vlogging was a big deal? Sure. It still is, but it's different, right? It's more podcasting. And so, Otto was like, we got to hire him. And that's kind of how Anthony joined us. He started nights at KKSS in Albuquerque when I'd been sent back. And then, he joined the show when we moved to San Antonio.
Let's unpack. You mentioned, I didn't realize this, but you were APD at the time as well?
Yeah. So I was APD. I was a program director for years from KMRK. I became program director at KKSS when Pete moved. I was APD in Houston when we were doing mornings. But I realized pretty quickly that I love programming, but it wasn't my first love. And in order to be good in a top 10 market, that's something I learned in Houston, I couldn't do both. There was just no way that I was going to be able to program and lead a show into a top 5 situation. You know what I mean? In our demos. So I gave it up. I changed that dream into the dream of being on air, the dream of being the female lead. I started to learn how important the position was. I started to listen more to the people around me. Like, you're a groundbreaking person. What you're doing is different, and I didn't understand that because I didn't know enough about broadcasting. And then I embraced that and I ran with it.
Did that background of being a programmer and music director, do you feel a better foundation to be on the air where you could understand maybe the mechanics a little bit more of the flow of the music and the station as a whole?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When JD had that talk with me, I realized, oh my gosh, I need to be acting like the talent that I'm talking to. I'm not behaving like the people I'm over. And I'm coaching them. I'm not listening to my coaches. I think because I'm APD, I can do whatever I want. That's not the way it is. Yeah, it helped me learn and understand that humbling experience. And even now, those programming skills, they still come into play. Why we go in at a certain time, why we do things a certain way, why we talk about things a certain way, they all come into play. And we've got some good coaches right now too, and people that help us out. So
when the three of you come together, does it click right away, you and Otto and Anthony, or did it take some time for that chemistry to gel?
It was immediate because we were friends. I know that you have been to conventions, whether it's morning show boot camp or, whatever it is, NAB, and you've heard some people talk about not being able to work with someone or having bad chemistry. I have never had that. Fortunately, we've always been able to work with people we wanted to work with. We've always been able to bring somebody on who was already not only an incredible talent, but close to us, somebody we liked, we actually personally had a relationship with. And that translated immediately to the airwaves. I mean, Anthony is hilarious. And Otto and I continue, we're married. So we can bicker, we can go back and forth. We're real. We're not always pretending like we have this perfect marriage. And Anthony will come in as the friend, the real friend, and joke about something and just crack everyone up. So yeah, it's been wonderful. We're so lucky to be able to work with our best friend, really.
Did that translate into ratings right away, or was that something that took some time to build?
It did translate to ratings. We moved to San Antonio, right? All three of us. We were in Albuquerque. They moved all three of us to San Antonio.
Understood.
After
So you guys got together as the morning show in Albuquerque first, and then they moved you to San Antonio.
No, we did not. Anthony was doing nights. Otto and I were doing mornings alone.
I see.
He felt like, he's like, we need that comedic relief, because he and I will talk about our marriage or whatever. And he knew, Otto is also somebody who was a music director in Houston. He's like, we need the comedic relief. And the PD in San Antonio, homie Marco, agreed. And so we brought Anthony with us. And yeah, it did take a little time. And honestly, that, Chachi, was because we were replacing a morning show that had been on the air at KBBT for, 15, 16 years, and they were an incredible show. So that was part of building that, right? Yeah. And Xavier is his name. He's back on, but he's on the old school station now.
So you guys are in San Antonio. You are taking over for Xavier, and you are all together now for the first time, and you're working on, at this point, is John still helping you out, Candelaria, or?
No, not at all. And in fact, I never got to tell him how much he changed my life until a few years ago. We were at a morning show boot camp.
I saw this, by the way. It was incredibly touching, but please tell the story.
No, wait, were you there? I don't even remember, because I lost it.
I was there.
I was on a panel. I think Brother Weiss was on the panel. I can't remember who else was there. And it was just a very surreal moment. I was just telling the story like I've done a million times. And John was in the audience, and I did not know that. And so at the end, as people are coming up to talk to me, he made his way to the stage. Oh, I'm going to get emotional right now. And I just lost it, because I was a struggling teen mother. I was making, $800 a month and living on it. And when I got my job in radio and I was making $24,000 a year, you couldn't have told me I wasn't rich, Chachi. I was like, I have healthcare and $2,000 a month. And to somebody that might not seem like a lot, but to where, from where I was to that, and then just the fast-paced growth of my career, because he said, you can go be the midday girl, you can stay here. Man, he changed everything for me, for my daughters, for now Otto. I mean it. We make a great team, but I wouldn't have met him if I hadn't been in radio. He's my best friend. Like, John really changed everything. So when I saw him, I just lost it. I don't know what you thought, but I bent down and I cried like a freaking baby.
I remember you giving him a big hug at the end of the panel, and really an awe-inspiring story. You had so many things candidly stacked against you, and to truly blaze trails and to accomplish what you've accomplished is really remarkable. And your attitude, not only professionally is that really difficult to do, but to be a Hispanic woman trying to get in this business, which sometimes I think is a lot better now, but I don't think as a whole treated women as well as we should have, as a lot of industries, did not. And at the same time, to be raising a child and learning all this from really is a brand new craft. It really says so much about you, who you are as a person, and
Thank you.
More so just the sheer talent that obviously John and JD recognized early on, because it's really impressive. So you guys are in San Antonio. That starts to click. When does syndication become a conversation?
Well, Otto and I discussed growth. We saw radio moving, right? And we saw that social media, everybody had their face in the phones already. This is probably 8 years ago now. So whatever year that was, 20, whatever it was at the time. And we said we need to start investing in ourselves. And so we went to a morning show boot camp, and we met Andrew and Omar Thompson.
Yeah, Omar.
And Andrew was wonderful. Omar was wonderful. We had a fun night. Of course, we ended up partying. Let's be real. We ended up in a hotel room. There's like 50 people in there. We're popping bottles. We're having fun. But Andrew said, hey, let's keep in touch. And I said, okay. And periodically he would text and whatever. And one time Otto was DJing in New York, and I just hit him up. I said, hey, what's up? Me and my girlfriend are going to be out. And so we met up in Manhattan at a little bar, had a great time. He asked how things were going, and I said, fine. And then within a few months of that, he called and he said, hey, what's going on? Would you consider doing some type of syndication? And Otto was actually going back to New York again to DJ. And I said, well, let's talk about it in person. And I just hopped the flight with Otto because I thought this is a great opportunity. And we met with him and we met with Steve Jones. And I think Andrew had to do a little convincing, for Steve to meet with us. We're in San Antonio. Like, who are these people? You know what I mean? Why would we want to sign them?
And I think it's important to note too that it was it was ABC. And so
it's ABC, yeah.
Big, it was a little bit out of their wheelhouse, obviously bright radio guys, but to take on a show that FM music station type show was definitely, I think, a leap of faith, but it also shows they're very, very bright guys to have that kind of vision and see what you guys, were bringing to the table.
And once we met with Steve, and think about it, Steve Jones, Steve, he's very buttoned up.
Yes.
Right? This Mexican woman she's a lead of a hip hop show. Like, what are we doing, Andrew? And then we had a wonderful conversation and I left and you know what? They said, let's do this. And we were quiet about it at first and it all worked out. We ended up leaving Univision, which I had been with now for a very long time. Right. And it was scary because you're taking a leap of faith. You're taking a chance on yourself. But Otto really was the one that, has always and this is, I guess maybe because of where I come from, he's always believed in me even more so than I think I've believed in myself. And that goes for, let's go back to the beginning, John Candelaria, right? Forcing me to do mornings, like really pushing me to do it. I think a lot of that has to do with the way I grew up, where I grew up, that kind of thing. And although it was scary, we knew radio was moving in a different direction. And to be honest, if we hadn't done it, I don't even know if I'd still be in radio, right? A lot of these companies aren't even keeping live local morning shows anymore. So it was the right move. And now looking back, I can't believe I even doubted doing it. And we're back on the beat anyway in San Antonio. We're back there.
Wow.
And we're doing wonderful. Yeah, we have a great PD. He's wonderful. Homie Marco is still there. He's the regional for Univision. He handles, I think, LA though, and different areas. But yeah, so it all worked out.
Really has in so many ways. And we'll unpack this in a minute, but come full circle for you to be back on the air in Odessa, to be back on the air in San Antonio, to be back on the air in Houston. Just
Albuquerque too on KKSX. Like it's so amazing. Yeah.
You had mentioned that your uncle who helped raise you, he passed away. Was he able to see your success? And
he was. Thankfully, he really was. Yeah, I'm so glad he got to see that. And he was so proud, right? Any magazine that I was in, Radio Inc. or whatever, Albuquerque, the magazine, he didn't care. He kept them. My mother would always, make sure he had a copy. And so he was extremely proud. He was really the father figure in my life. He was somebody that I really looked up to. He was incredibly intelligent, probably the most intelligent person I've ever known, but he had his demons. He was in Vietnam, obviously before I was born or whatever, but it really took a toll on him. I think because of where he grew up and having to go fight and coming back and not really having, he didn't qualify for a GI Bill. He went to work for General Dynamics and things. And these are just, it might be too much information.
Oh, I appreciate you sharing that.
But slighted and he started drinking. And so, unfortunately his life was not wonderful. But when it came to me, he always put me first. He and my grandmother always put me first. And that's why I have the gift of gab, because he taught me the joy of reading. And for me, entertainment was 60 minutes. So that's it. That's what I have.
The apple in his eye. And, probably as you were sharing, and I love that you are so authentic. And my guess is a lot of what John saw in you was that authenticity. And when I came up in the business, I'm a little bit older, we still were kind of playing a role on the air as opposed to more of a character, if you will, on the air, as opposed to just being real. And that's a lot about what I love about your show and you as a human being is you are who you are. And I think that's incredible and, very, not only charming, but it's very engaging and just real.
I really do appreciate that. Thank you. Because when I first started, I remember thinking, how am I going to hide all these crazy things about my life? Like, it's so crazy. My family's so weird. Like, I'm a mother and I'm, all these things. And then I realized pretty quickly, oh, wait, I'm not the only one with a weird family or whatever going on in their lives. Like the wealthiest person, the most educated person to the poorest, to the whatever, everyone has issues. And so I found that the more I opened up about who I am, the more endearing the show got to the people who were tuning in. So, yeah.
When you guys signed the deal with ABC and Steve and Andrew, do you get moved to Phoenix then immediately?
No. So, Univision was not happy at first. We were very respectful though, to them, and wonderful GM Chris Morris at the time. I understand why they were upset, right? They were like, hey, you're just leaving. We couldn't come to terms with staying there and whatever. So we had to go. So we had to go across the street in San Antonio because we needed our markets, So we were there with Phil Becker at the time, who I don't think he's in radio anymore. I think he's left Alpha. He picked our show up on the station across the street. It was a pop station. And then we were on in Portland as well. And I can't remember. KKSS picked us up right away as soon as they found out in Albuquerque. Larry Lemansky was his name. Is his name. He was the GM at the time. He called, picked us up. So we picked up Palm Springs pretty quickly. We had a few markets out the gate. So we were still in San Antonio. The Phoenix thing came about a year and a half after that.
So,
which was wonderful.
Yeah, relatively quickly. How does day to day in terms of putting the show together, going from local in San Antonio to now being on the air in these different markets like Portland?
Well, we used to be live and local in San Antonio, right? And take calls. COVID happened. We were just moved to Phoenix when that happened. So we kind of had to, Chachi was different, right? Nobody's on the road. You're doing a morning show. And you look out, we just started and there's like nobody. Very scary. I'm like, we just started this syndication thing and nobody listens to Morning Drive right now. Everybody's in their house. So we started going live on Facebook. We started going live on Instagram and we started recording our show differently. It was more of a podcast where we weren't live. We'd do bits about what was happening in the world. We'd do bits about local issues, national issues, trying to help people, connecting people with jobs. Remember, there was a massive loss of jobs.
Sure.
Through Facebook, we were actually finding people gigs from Phoenix to Florida, from Texas to California. So it was different for us. We were really trying to support community more than anything. And it actually helped our ratings because once things started opening up in Phoenix, we caught on. And we were like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad we didn't quit. Now in Houston every morning, now, we're still on it at KKRFR in Phoenix as well. We are live and local every morning in Houston. It is all Houston radio. We take parts of that show and we repurpose for the other markets. And then we do new content because you can't talk about Dua Lipa on the beat. You know what I mean? Right. It's just not going to work. But 90% of our show, the meat and bones of our show is relationships and life. And that's it. So everything else translates because that's just people. So we don't have to change any of that.
Really well put. People, regardless of the music, we all have the same, very similar feelings and emotions and
wants, goals, needs, children, all of that right now, the economy, gas prices. Can I take a vacation? Nobody's life is any different than anyone else's, despite what that, the place where my family's buried says. We all want the same things. We all need the same things and we all strive for the same things. So that's kind of how we approach our show.
Walk me through a day, typical work day in terms of, when are you getting up? What does prep look like and the show itself? And when do you finally get home?
I wake up at 3:30 in the morning and we are at work before 5. And we have all the clocks written out because we do a postmortem at the end of every show. But let's just say, here's today. For instance, we get there a little bit before 5 a.m. We go over everything that we planned the day before. Is it still relevant? Did something crazy happen? Are we missing anything? All the sound bites we need, any phone calls that we have put together, we get ready. Our producer loads everything. I edit things down. And then we go live at 6 a.m. And that's it. It's a good hour and a half, though, of prep work before we hit the airwaves. And I don't know that I would have done that had I not come here before and done so poorly. Because when we first were in Houston, I'd get there at 10 till 6. I think we already know what to do. I've heard morning shows say, I don't do any prep. We just hit the airwaves and fly by the seat of our pants. I've never met one in a PPM market that says that does well. And so that was a lesson we learned, right? So now it's all about prep. Now, when we're done with live and local at 9 a.m., now it's time to do the national show. So we take the meat and bones and I edit those Houston references and everything out. And then we record for the hip hop stations that we're on all over. If Megan Thee Stallion just broke up with her boyfriend, what's happening there? You know, Rihanna, she's the new face of whatever. She had a stalker. We do all these other things. Well, Rihanna might work for both, to be honest. But anyway, you know, I'm just saying, if an artist is big enough, they're going to fly on any station. It doesn't matter. So we usually leave between noon and 1. And then we come to our house where I'm in the studio right now. We'll work out, then we'll eat. And then Otto gets back in the studio because he's got to make the playlist for all the other markets. And he does 2. He does a throwback hip hop and a new hip hop. And then we do the voice work. So we're done about, 5 p.m., 6 p.m.
Oh, that's a 14-hour day.
Every day. And then he's going to do the podcast and we've got to start getting ready for the next day. And so, yeah.
Plus your markets, they have liners and promos and.
At one point I did, actually sit down and interview with the Kid Craddock show. And I'm so glad I did that because I spent 3 days there and I kind of saw what they were doing. This is early in my career, by the way. And I noticed that he was knocking out a bunch of liners at one time. So now I remembered that and I said, we can't just do random. Like we need one day to do these things for our affiliates. And if they don't get them in by that day, we just can't do them unless it's, something crazy. So I learned that one day in his studio that I spent there. I still remember that thinking, wow, that's so incredible that he's doing that. So
what a unbelievable show. And to this day, the fact that that show is so successful without Kid, but it goes, and no taking away from the cast. They're obviously really, really talented, but it's amazing how well character definition and how well defined that show really is. And I don't think anyone could have predicted that it would be after his passing. I think it's been close to a decade now that the show would be, still on the air. And it's really remarkable.
And just as strong, if not stronger. Yes. Right? Yes. And beloved by people in Dallas and all over the country. Yeah.
My hat's off. And what a remarkable talent he was.
Same.
Talk a little bit about the podcast and how do you find time for the podcast and how does that differ from what you're doing on the air?
So we don't do a different podcast. We do what's on the radio. It would be impossible. It would be like literally impossible. I just gave you a rundown right of a day. I barely found time to do this podcast.
Well,
I didn't even
by the way.
Today.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, no. But I love doing things like this because I hope to inspire somebody else. But the radio, we just take what we did and we put every single bit of it onto our podcast. And there you go. That's the podcast. If you miss anything, and it would also be, pretty crazy of us to think that every person listening hangs on every single word and they catch every single segment. It's just not like that. And since we're on all over Cali and all over Texas, people drive a lot, right? And they go from place to place. If they miss something, if I say I'm going to talk about this later, if you miss it, catch it on the podcast. That's an incentive for them to come back and listen. And we're still in their lives, when they go home or whatever. We have a pretty strong podcast. I wish it was like Joe Rogan, or whatever, but we're proud of our podcast. We get anywhere from, 16 to 20,000 plays a month. That's not bad.
No, that's not bad at all. Have you found that listeners from other markets that you're not in, have discovered you and listened to the podcast?
Yes. Especially we do a segment called Crazy Crimes of Passion. It's true crime stories in under 5 minutes. Yeah, those people are crazy. I'm one of those people. I love true crime. I was like, you're crazy. We shouldn't do crime. I'm like, if we do it in under 5 minutes, it's radio friendly. He's like, man, it's one of our biggest podcasts. I said, yeah, people come from everywhere to listen to that one. Yeah.
Yeah. The true crime, that whole genre is just so wildly popular. And I love Dateline, get sucked into that.
Me too. And think about it. When you think about good programming, right? People are like, TV's done. I'm like, no, it's not. Give us some good content. Dateline still trends every Friday and Saturday night. People are all over Instagram and X now talking about it. Young people, because it's good content. If you give me good content, I'm going to listen. If it sucks, I'm not going to watch. I'm not going to listen. I don't have time for that,
It's really very well put. I want to jump in as well. You guys are just so omni-channel and you do a phenomenal job on your socials. Really well done. Are you doing that all yourself? I mean, obviously I know it's you, but do you have someone helping you edit and put those together?
Jack, our new producer, who we just hired fresh out of college, by the way. Yeah, like you said, young, trying to get people into the business. He does cut things down, but I have to tell him what to do because he's so new. He doesn't have that ear or eye yet. So I do 80% of it. And I just, what's interesting, I kind of took a tiny break. I haven't been posting as regularly. And this is on purpose for the past 3 weeks, just to cleanse a little bit of my mind with everything going on in the country right now, with my community especially. I found that I was getting almost depressed, right? I was absorbing everything rather in a way that it wasn't just not good for my mental. It wasn't good for the show. It wasn't doing anything for anyone, especially me. So I took a small, tiny break, but you're right. We're extremely active on social media. Could we be more active? Yeah. But much like the podcast, we have to focus on the radio first. We have millions of people who listen to us, millions. And I want to make sure that when they tune into the radio, because that is my first job, they are getting the best show that I can deliver. And if I chop my time up into too many pieces of pie, well, nobody gets filled. It's too small, the sliver. So I have to make sure that the radio is first priority.
It's a great piece of advice. I know a lot of talent are stressed and I think confused on there's so many different mediums pulling at them,
right.
To have to create content for. And then you then start, unfortunately, not doing a good job because you're spread too thin. And I think it's very, very well put. Let's talk about your Breaking Bad cameo appearances. How did those come to be? I mean, what a fun piece of trivia, by the way.
Well, we talked about Albuquerque, right? I was on in Albuquerque. Breaking Bad was filmed there. In fact, a lot of great shows and movies are filmed in Albuquerque now. Netflix has a studio. There's all kinds of different studios there. There are so many actors and actresses that are now living there because they buy homes in Santa Fe, in Albuquerque, in Taos. It's cool anyway to live in these places, right? If you have millions of dollars anyway.
Sure. Beautiful part of the world. And I knew Better Call Saul was also done there.
Yes, it was done there as well. So my girlfriend, Carmen Serrano, played the vice principal in Breaking Bad. And she said to me, hey, there's a part coming up, a news person, and I think you'd be great for the part. Well, here I am again, right? I have no idea about any of this. And she says, the casting director, Cherie, would like to see you. So go in this day. Chachi, I thought I had the job. I didn't know. So I show up. And there's like 50 other people there. And I'm like, what's going on? And they all have this resume. And it's a picture of them with their stuff in the back. Like, I'm like, what is that? So I screenshot a photo of myself and I just made something in PixArt. And I go in there and I read for her and she's like, that was amazing. Can you speak Spanish too? And so I did it in English. I did it in Spanish. She said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cast you. I was like, thank God. Because I felt so foolish. I thought Carmen was telling me I had the job. But I got it. So I pulled it off. Yeah, I have 2 scenes that I actually speak. There's one where I'm at the dump and that the plane had just crashed. And then, no, they find the bodies. And then there's another, I'm actually behind the desk of a news desk and I'm speaking Spanish and I'm reporting the plane crash at that point. So I'm playing a reporter Stretch.
Oh, ooh, cool. Be on one of the biggest television shows to have aired.
I just got my residual check.
Are you serious?
Yeah. $26.
Hey. I want to talk. You were really involved in charities, St. Jude's and CASA. Can you fill me in a little bit of how you got involved with both of those programs?
CASA was just, me wanting to help kids. I've been involved for a very long time. I tried to be a foster parent actually and didn't qualify. Otto and I as well. When we got together, we tried, but because we move around a lot and because we travel a lot, it's really important for foster children to be in a stable home, which I understood. But you can make appearances in court with these kids. And if you're following what's happening right now, you'll see some of the kids who are in detention or making appearances in court by themselves. That's the same for foster children all over the country. There are 450,000 foster children who are living in the U.S. And unfortunately, there aren't enough homes. Some of these children, young and old, live in the offices of CASA. It is a very sad situation because we don't really talk about them, especially when they get older. And when I found out about that, I thought I have to do something. I have to volunteer. I have to talk about it on the radio. I have a platform. And, these kids, they leave foster care at 18 and there is some help. But imagine not having a mother, a father, a grandmother, somebody to call, and you are just out there on your own at 18. That's it. It's really difficult to imagine me not having anyone to rely on. And that's what these young adults face. So that's why CASA is very important to me. And then when it comes to St. Jude, I'll be honest, I used to watch the commercials. I'd hear them on the radio and I was like, And then I went there and it just changed my life because having 3 of my own daughters, I can't imagine a doctor telling me, hey, I know you came in because your child has a headache, but they actually have a brain tumor. And that's exactly what happens to these families. So when I met these kids and I met these families, I said, I am going to do everything I can for the rest of my career, as long as I'm able, to help these families so that when they do show up there, they don't have to worry about bills. They just have to worry about their child healing. We just did a St. Jude radiothon in Sacramento, and it's the first one that 102.5 KSFM Heritage Station there has ever worked with St. Jude. So they were expecting to just raise $5,000-$6,000, and we hit $50,000. So out the gate for that is a really big deal for St. Jude. They were very excited, very excited.
A wonderful organization. We used to do the radiothons here when I was at KBIG and MyFM at Children's Hospital, and it really does put things in perspective very quickly. Oh. You see what the kids and the parents are going through. So I have so much admiration for what you do, and anything we can ever do to help, please don't hesitate.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
One of those organizations. Do your daughters have aspirations to follow in your footsteps?
Absolutely not. No, they don't. I do mention them periodically on the radio, but they don't like it. When they were very young, think about it. I didn't really do anything but work. So for them, it became this, the radio. Right. They'd go to concerts with me. They do things like that, but they just did not want to do radio at all. I tried so hard to convince them, and they're just like, no, don't want to do it, have no desire whatsoever. My youngest, Ava, she did for like a second because she used to like to, get on my phone and do mess with the filters and things. She wrote one of our most popular radio bits that we still do. But other than that, that's it. They're like, don't tell anybody about us because everybody's just asked for concert tickets. And I said, okay, fine. Okay, if you don't want to know. But our youngest did write one of our most successful bits. We still run it to this day. It's called Fresh Friday for the Kids.
Okay, that's awesome.
So she used to love watching old shows on YouTube or TV. Remember, and God, Bill Cosby was a host, but kids say the darndest things.
Yes, totally. Yes.
Okay. Our daughter loves I Love Lucy, things like that. And they're fun, right? They're funny. They're very, just hilarious shows. And so she said, you should do Fresh Friday for the Kids where you ask kids questions. Why can't we talk on the radio? And I said, she said, put us on the radio. I said, what should we call it? And she said, Fresh Friday for the Kids. So that's what we did.
And it worked out.
Oh my gosh. It is one of our most popular segments on hip hop, old school, pop, whatever. Otto will make a mix. Parents call in. We ask their kids anything we want, and kids answer any way they can. And it is hilarious.
It is great.
Hilarious. Oh yeah. Oh my God. One comes to mind right away. I cannot wait for you to hear it. We ask the kids, what does your mom do, or what do your parents do for work? Oh, it's time for Fresh Friday for the Kids. Yes. Let's put your kids on the radio right now. 713-881-5965. Mom, Jordan, and Jonathan, welcome. How are you? Jonathan, what does your mama do for work, mijo?
She whacks butts.
Oh my God.
She whacks butts. Okay. She better get paid a lot of money.
Oh my gosh.
She whacked one yesterday, Dad.
She did.
Okay.
Oh, I love kids.
I love babies. I love our children are so. Don't you ever tell Jonathan to not speak his mind. Jordan, don't you take that superpower away from him. Now, Jordan, I want to know, what is it you do, girl?
So I work at European Wax Center. And I work at a restaurant.
You do wax butts. You might have waxed my butt. Who knows?
Oh my God.
I might know Jordan a lot more than most callers.
Thank you. That's amazing. Your awards, as I mentioned earlier, Gracie, Radio Inc., top national radio personality, winner of the best morning show in Phoenix. Did it really, when the awards started to come in and you were getting these accolades, did that feel surreal, just coming from Big Springs, Texas, and that, having to fight your way to the top like you did? I guess, how did that feel to start to get that recognition? And I guess I'll do a two-part question. How did that feel to start getting that recognition?
So I think it would be so nice for me to say, I don't care, but man, it felt good. I loved it, especially because so many PDs didn't get the show, man. I will not put anybody's names out there, but some of them are still programming, and I'm in a major market and they aren't. And they were, and now they're not. So they just didn't see the show. They just didn't understand. They didn't have the vision that somebody like John Candelaria did, somebody like J.D. Gonzalez did, somebody like the people who we work with now do. All the PDs who add our show. We are not and I love all my brothers and sisters who do morning drive, but we're not a crammed down show. You have to sign us. Skyview doesn't own radio stations. We have to pull up with receipts and show you the ratings and show you what we do, and we put money in the books, and that's how we get added. So getting the recognition feels fucking amazing. Sorry. We work so hard. So getting a Gracie Award or getting that recognition feels like, man, all this work, and the people around us who recognize that, our peers who recognize that, it means the world to me because I look at them with so much admiration and respect. So yeah, I still don't see myself on that level, right? And so those things make me feel good about what I do.
I want to compliment you. I was listening to one of your bits, and my apologies, I forget Christy Nome's husband, the one that had the
yes,
fetish, and
I think it's called bimbofication.
Yes, and
yeah,
obviously people started making fun of him and so forth, and it was a crazy situation. But your perspective on this is one of the bits that I heard. But you had this empathy for him and for people that have these kind of strange fetishes or whatever, and it was very authentic, and it just kind of struck a chord because I think very few people would have thought to take that at that angle, if that makes sense, and the way that you addressed it. And Otto came in with a funny quip, but I was really impressed on how you approach things. And it's very different than what you're probably getting from 99% of the other morning shows out there. And I found that just A, refreshing, and B, I'm like, I just never would have thought about taking that approach with it. And so I commend you for that.
Well, I think I don't know for certain, but being a woman makes me think differently. The only thing I thought about was family. The only thing I thought about was a child of mine or somebody else's child not feeling comfortable enough to tell anyone in their lives how they felt, to the point that they lost control because they couldn't be who they are inside. They had to live this fake life. And then also the shame that they probably feel now, their family feels now, and to live in that world too. This isn't political. To live in a world where being gay isn't accepted, where all of these things are not accepted. It's even harder, right? To have to feign that you're so upset by these people's lifestyle when deep down inside, that's who you are. It's I can't imagine. It would be a horrible feeling. And so that's the first thing that came to my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, this man has had to hide who he is. It's interesting you said that because I get that a lot with questions I ask people. We went to a big boxing event. Canelo Alvarez, world champion boxer, pound for pound, one of the greatest to ever box. Well, I'm in the middle there. I'm like, I don't know what to do. This, don't get me wrong. I know who he is. I understand the impact in boxing, but I'm not a boxing aficionado, right? So I sit down with him, and I had seen a video of him. His son was in the ring. His son gets hit. He's little, barely gets hit, but he starts to cry. And Canelo's manager asks him to come over and says, don't cry, but in Spanish, men don't cry, babies cry. And so Canelo Alvarez, the boy's father, says, no, you cry. If you feel something, you let it out. You are a man. And so I asked him about that moment. Well, it went super viral because nobody else asked him that. everybody else was asking about his stats and this,
Right.
which I don't really care about that. I want to know who you are as a person. I want to know what's happening in your life. I want to know what made you do that. That to me was extremely powerful. And so that might be why my questions or my thought process is a little different. Maybe if more women had an opportunity to do morning radio, you'd hear more of that.
Very well said. And I love it. It's thought-provoking, and your angle, really find it just not only fascinating, but I love the place that you come from, Dana, and what you mean, A, to this industry, but B, and honestly, more importantly, to the listeners and these wonderful organizations that you help. I want to leave you with the one final question. I just came from NAB a couple weeks ago and spent some time at the BEA conference and seeing young people wanting to get into this business, which I want to certainly encourage, as I'm sure as you do as well.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your advice to young people that are looking to get into business and be the next Dana Cortez?
Pound on the doors, send emails, do fake pretend breaks, get on TikTok, get on Instagram, get on Facebook, make your case. You know, you look at Bruce, somebody like that, right? He was in a small market already, but who would he be where he is without that social media presence? Probably not. Some people might take offense to me saying that, well, radio is not social media and vice versa. I understand that, but you're going to have to capture people's attention because, you know, we hired our producer. I just mentioned him, Jack. He'd put in 300 applications and not one person called him back. And I do think, Chachi, I think it's because people are afraid to lose their gigs, right? They're afraid. If you're doing a great job, the team you surround yourself with should be stronger than you. Actually, that just makes you look better, right? The people that I put around me should be better than me, or at least bring something to the table. And bringing that youth in offers a different perspective. Jack has a different background than we do. He has a different outlook in life. He's an entirely different letter. I mean, he's a different generation, you know, so you need that. And if we do not bring young people in, this industry will die, and it's because of us. So if you're young and you want to get in radio, keep knocking on the doors, invest in yourself like we did. We had to pay for ourselves to go to these conventions. The company wouldn't do it. If you really believe you've got the chops, you've got the work ethic, do it. Because nobody's going to believe in you more than you can.
Dana, thank you so much for taking the time. A couple quick plugs since you brought up the conventions. Morning Show Boot Camp coming up this year in Cleveland. Will you and the team be there?
Yeah. For Otto and I, for sure. I don't know about Ant. He's just doing so much comedy. We're so proud of him. You know, he travels a lot and we're proud he's headlining a lot of different shows. So, you know, we always want our partners to be happy. Hopefully he'll be there, but we'll be there for sure. And don't forget to wake up with us in Houston on Mix 96.5.
And also one, you're going to be hosting, along with our good friend Shaboy, the Hispanic Radio Conference with our friend Radio Inc., I should say, Hispanic Radio Conference. Deborah Parente, of course, who's the co-chair with me at the Library of American Broadcasting Foundation. Dana, congratulations to all your success. My congrats to Otto and to Anthony and the whole entire team. It's truly a remarkable show, and it makes me not only feel wonderful as an industry to have you in it, but I just love seeing your success, and thank you again for taking the time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was lovely.
Thanks for listening to Chachi Loves Everybody. If you like the show, we hope you'll leave us a 5-star rating and tell your friends. Make sure to follow on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. This has been a Benztown McVeigh podcast production. Hosted and researched by Dave Chachi Dennis. Engineered by Darren Silva. Produced and edited by Jake Urbanik. Show coordinator Suzanne Aksu and Robbie Gessel.